Well, thank you so much, everybody. Welcome back to the Bazz Reviews YouTube channel. I'm your host, Bazz, and today we're taking a break from the music side of things, a nice, well-deserved break from the music side of things. And with me today is one of my favorite sports YouTubers, 5PointsVids. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Thank
Appreciate
you so
the
much for your time.
invite.
It means a lot. I love your videos. I've been watching them for the past 3 years, and to have you here with us, it's a great moment for me.
Well, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So starting things off here, I know you've held many different corporate jobs over the years, but what made you really want to like break away and start your own like platform of 5 Points Vids?
Well, I never started the channel thinking that it would be my job. Like I think that's important for a lot of people is that if you're going to start a YouTube channel, you better love making the videos and you better love making the process and be less concerned about the results because it took a really long time until I actually got traction on YouTube. I think it took about 5 years till I really started to figure things out and how to make videos that I thought the audience would respond to. And then it was kind of it just kind of worked out because the job that I had at the time wasn't going very well. Like my salary had been reduced so and everything was growing on the YouTube side. And even though I wasn't making enough money to really actually quit, I told my wife, I was like, hey, I really just need to try doing this. And she was like, well, if you pay all the bills, then that's fine. And I was like, well, okay. I said, yeah, like, sure, I'll pay all the bills and not really knowing whether I could or not. And then, I got a couple good bounces and things just kind of went right. And, I never intended to make it my livelihood, but it kind of just happened that way. And I'm very glad because YouTube has been the a huge growing sector in the market. And I just kind of happened into a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to think it's just like even just something like watching like sporting events or anything like that relating to your field, of course, I think it's just going to get like even shorter. Again, like you can just watch like a 10-minute highlight reel of a baseball game or a basketball game or something like that. And that's really like what you'll pay attention to. Like, I think nobody's going to watch a full 3 hour game because it just takes too much time. You can just catch it the next day for 10 minutes of your time.
Yeah, unless it's like the Super Bowl or
Absolutely.
something, or it's your team. That's the other thing is like me I'm a Rangers fan. I don't always have access to the MSG network or the channels that broadcast. So I'll often miss the game, but I can catch the highlight. I can catch 10 minutes of all the important stuff on YouTube, right after the game. So that model has just killed Sports Center and highlight shows or recaps, and then it's brought it back to guys like me that really want to take sports and interpret them or educate people about them because the highlights are there obviously, but people are hungry for that more alternative and authentic voices around sports. So it's been I'm definitely very happy with the niche that I'm in right now.
Absolutely, and it seems like you've got a lot of really great guys around you, like Urinating Tree, Scooter Magruder. That's good sports guys like that. We'll talk a little bit more about them later. But who are some of your like biggest influences to start your own channel? I mean, in the last question there, you mentioned like you've got figures like Sports Center and ESPN that are sort of on the decline now, but were kind of even to think like 5 years ago, we're still somewhat relevant in um, like the sports journalism landscape.
Yeah, I think there's two things really. Like when I first started my YouTube channel, it was actually a gaming channel. I was playing Madden and I wanted to learn how to stop the screen pass and I didn't know which defense. And then I saw all these YouTube videos and I was like, whoa, there's all this stuff. Like I didn't know you could capture game footage. Like it had always been a dream of mine. Like I was like, I wonder if that technology exists and someone had made it. And then there was this guy called Mr. Golden Sports who was like the largest Madden YouTuber at the time. And I thought his videos were really funny. I was like, well, I've always thought that I was funny and that I could offer that same level. But then I realized that, man, it's really hard and he's really good at what he does. And I got into gaming. I got sick of Madden. And then one day I was like, I always had these analytical thoughts about sports, and I would write out charts and do spreadsheets for no other reason than fun. And then one day I was like, I wonder if I just did that and made that into a video. And it just kind of worked out that I was able to both um write and be able to narrate and then put together the enough of a video that people would watch, and people just started watching, and it snowballed from there. So, but yeah, that was my that was the only reason that I got into it, was a guy named Madden YouTuber that I thought I could be as funny, and I really wasn't, because it's man, YouTube is really hard. It's not as easy as it looks, for sure. Like anything that people are good at, they make it look easy, and you have to figure out that same sort of art form as well.
Right, absolutely. No, it's an interesting point that you brought that up. I was actually listening to a podcast that some of my friends do the other day, and they were talking about like Twitch streamers and how like it's just so difficult for them. It like it's like they're streaming like 5, 6 hours a day. They're like talking, they're playing video games, they're like reading people's donations and the chat and stuff. So it's like a lot to focus on. It to your point, it's not as easy as it really looks as just a viewer.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot. And the other thing that's really interesting about it, as being a YouTuber, you have to be a little good at a lot of things. And that's pretty rare, that especially for, like the guys that I run with, KTO and Flemlo and Tree, it's like you have to have a little bit of editing. You have to be strong at writing. You have to have voice talent. You have to have a little bit of graphic design. Like you're doing the job of 10 to 12 people as a single person. And it's pretty rare that someone would be gifted with all those things. And that's why I'm always impressed with other YouTubers, that like someone like Foolish Baseball, who's just gifted in so many areas. It's amazing how just intelligent and creative and talented a lot of YouTubers are.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, there are a lot of really great just individual people that out there, and even you, like with all your marketing deals, like you have a background in that. So I mean, it definitely helps to be able to like know what deals are good to take and which ones will help you profit the most.
Yeah, that's one thing I had a real advantage over a lot of people, is I've written ad copy for a long time. So like, for when they give me something, or they're like, "Hey, can they basically, when you get a brand deal, they give you a bunch of talking points." And some people are really good at just winging it and just going down the list, but I had written ad copy, like that's part of my diverse career for a long time. So it never bothers me to put together something that's really salesy or marketing wise. It's just kind of the perfect storm, that I already had that background. And so I could like, I didn't have to learn that behavior at all, which I was fortunate to stumble upon.
Right, exactly. Because it's like a lot of like, that's another component that goes into it. It's like if you want to make money from your channel, make it a living, so to speak. It's like you got to know what deals are good to take. And again, that definitely did serve you in your best interest. Yeah. But switching gears here, I was just curious to know, like, what's the significance behind the channel name of 5 Points Vids?
So when I started the YouTube channel, I thought that, with gaming, I was like, all right, well, I want to be able to help people, like beginners at Madden. And every video, I was going to give them 5 points of information in the video. So like there's a bunch of videos that I've done where I've delisted them because they're just so bad. Like they're going to just hurt my channel more than anything, which I've slowly started to make them public again. But I've always left the first video up there because it's just so amazingly bad that I can always look back and be like, wow, that was really bad. But also, it's sort of a tie-in to Billy the Butcher from Gangs in New York. Like, they live in the 5 points of New York, and I always thought that was a cool name. And that's a me being a fan of all the New York teams. Like that was like an homage to the Rangers, the Mets, the Giants, and the Knicks. So it just kind of, honestly, like it was 5 points gaming, and then I changed it to 5 points vids. And the name, you never think that the name is going to mean anything until it does later. Like it's funny, it's like my buddy Urinating Tree, like he just picked a name out of a hat. Like he was just like, ah, I just changed it to that. And now, he's got like 500,000 subscribers. He never thought that that would be, you just don't think that, you know, you don't put the name with thinking later. You don't usually have that forethought, but yeah, with the 5 points vids, that just happened to be what it is.
Right, and the name is just stuck. Like I'd always wondered like what it was based on because again, I don't think I saw any of your like Madden videos. I really, like I said, I picked up really just about 3 years ago, and I've been a pretty loyal viewer since then. So I've kind of become familiar with all the different tropes of the channel, like critiquing different stadiums. All those are classic videos. Love those a lot. And then of course, Urinating Tree, another really awesome name. Never really knew the significance behind his name, but no, that is really cool. Kind of just one of those like random out of a hat things.
Yeah, if you ever get Tree on, you'll have to ask him the story of it. It's kind of disappointing, but it's also pretty funny. So
So I'm curious to know, as we just touched on a second ago, your process of making videos. I'm sure it's changed over the years, of course, as a Madden YouTuber to now just like breaking down so many different things. Like, what is like, how do you do things from start to finish? Like, where does the idea start? How do you go about that afterwards, et cetera, et cetera?
so before, it used to be like when I was a gamer, it was a lot easier the way, because you would just play a game until you got something interesting, and then you would just take the captured footage. I would cut it down to, I would cut out, it was like making a highlight reel, and then I would just comment over it. So videos would take only an hour or something to make. When I started planning out the videos, the process changed completely. So the way, and instead of getting shorter now, it starts to get longer now as I'm a professional. Instead, so the way it starts is I'll come up with the idea, and it could be anything. Like I could hear something on the radio, or I could remember a fact, or I could be watching a sporting event and be like, huh, that's an interesting statistic. I wonder if I can make a whole video about that. Or like when it came to Alex Smith, like I did that video, Brandon Perna called him the most least wanted quarterback in one of his videos. And I emailed Brandon and I was like, Brandon, I need to make that into a video. Are you okay with that? And he's like, absolutely. And so just the ideas come from a variety of sources. But once I have it, I start with the title, because the title is the most important thing of a video. Like if you can't hash out a good title, no one's ever going to watch the video. So I start from there, and then the process begins. I'm like, all right, I need to script it. So I have a writer, Will Keys, is super talented. He writes about half the videos. Sometimes I give him an outline, or sometimes I know that the title is so self-explanatory and he is so talented that all I have to do is give him the title. But then a script is created, and then from there, there's like two scripts. Like there's another script where I have to line up what's in the what I'm going to say with what footage I need to gather. Right. So if I'm talking about like the 28-3 video, I'm like, holy crap. Like Will wrote that, but I had to I had to think of, where does that scene exist, right? Where does that moment exist? And then, once I get the script from him, or if I write it, I go through about 2 or 3 edits to pare it down to be like, all right, what is going to be interesting to the viewer? Because really, you guys are what's important. It's not about me. It's not about the subject. It's, can I create a video that people will watch? And that's so important. So I'm looking at the script and I'm like, people get bored with this part, or I don't want to give anyone an exit point, right? Like I want you to be sucked into the video and be like, I have to watch this and I have to know what happened. Even with like a video with like 28-3, what happens. And hopefully you're still engaged to the point where I've got to remember like, oh, I didn't even know that, I forgot that happened. So then once all the footage is gathered, and once I narrated and put the audio together, then the editing process starts, where I have to cut down all the footage and make it fit to what I said. And then from there, even, and we in the industry, or we or the other YouTubers call it the baseline, I call it the bedrock, or the first pass, where you finally have the first draft where your voice is matched up to all the footage, and then you can relax a little bit, right? You're like, okay, Then all the details come in, the text overlays, the sound, the music, the transitions, like the memes, the jokes, all the punch up. That takes like another, that's like a whole nother process. And then finally I'm like, all right, I'm at render stage where we're really getting close to uploading it. And that's where you tweak and make sure you didn't make any mistake, which I make a bunch of mistakes, don't get me wrong. And the whole process can take as little as 5 hours sometimes, to 10 to 20 hours. Like the 28 to 3 video took me an exorbitant amount of time, like way more than I thought, but it's worth it. And so, usually though, the rule of thumb with my channel is at least for every minute of footage you see takes an hour of work on the back end. And sometimes you get magic and sometimes you get an average video, but it's always fun every time. It's always nerve wracking to put it up there and see if there's a copyright claim, or if if the video takes off. But upload day is always special to me for sure. It never changes. It's the same hit of dopamine every time. Like, all right, I did this, and now it's time to show it to the world.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that last statement you made there. Just whenever you have that video go out into the world, it's just like, is it going to perform well? Is it not? Like, are people going to like it? Or are they not? So it's really for the first, like, 24 hours, it's just, you're constantly checking. But then like once you see it and you're like, okay, that's fine. It all goes away. So no, that's a really great process. A lot of interesting points there, especially like every 1 minute of footage is like an hour of work. And like, of course, like the idea of like having to find footage to match up with what you're saying, all really important things. And like, even for me, like I'll kind of get lazy, use the same three like videos for an artist and just keep recycling them. Again, not the best thing on my end, but that's a really interesting point, how you have to kind of like keep all of that into account, especially as a sports YouTuber where like the visuals are honestly the most important thing.
Oh yeah, they're super important. And like, as an editor, like again, it's not only what you're saying that it engages the viewer, but it's what's on screen that's engaging the viewer and keeping them interested. And like I said, you don't want to give anybody an exit point. You don't want someone to be like, this video sucks, and they leave. Because I think that's what people fall victim to in the beginning, is you're so proud of what you've done, you kind of think of the viewer as secondary, right? In the beginning, you're just like, all right, I need to get this video up. I need to create something that I think is magical. And I used to rewatch my own videos and think that they were great, but I had no idea that the audience didn't think that they were great. But you're it's kind of self-indicative though. It's like, if I put up a video that no one responds to or doesn't do well, I'm like, okay, well, I missed the mark on something here. Either the category was bad, or I just didn't create an interesting or compelling video. And it really shouldn't matter the subject. Like if it's in my top 10 videos of all time, one of them is a NASCAR video, right? Like, I'm not really known for NASCAR, but if you created it interesting enough, I don't think it matters the subject at all.
Right, absolutely. That was actually a nice segue there to add like your top 10 videos and stuff like. But what are some of your like personal favorite videos you've made over the years? And I'm also going to ask you, what are your least favorite videos you've made over the year? Like, would there be any you would redo, delete entirely? So you can answer those in either order you want, but I'm curious to know like what are some of your favorites so I can compare.
Yeah, I think the dual use stadium vid, where I just, I had noted, I had figured out that Oakland was the last of it's the end of an era. And I think that I just thought that that was so original and something that people had not really been aware of. And it was so fun to put that video together and make it educational and just really dive deep into something that I really care about. And for people to discover that was fun. And the triggering videos are all also fun, but pretty laborious to do. Like, you have to go out and find something insulting on every team, and it's amazing the phenomenon of doing that and then having fans want you to abuse them more. That was what I never expected, was people would be like, you have to go harder at us. Like, you didn't even bring up half the stuff, that really bother us. And I was like, wow, like I didn't know that so many fans were masochists of their own team. But I've kind of, those aren't as fun to do as like narrative storytelling type videos, where I've really gotten into just telling a story versus just listing off things. And those to me are the most satisfying. Um, the least satisfying are the videos that I just kind of missed the mark, right? Where I didn't dive in deep, or I didn't find a stat, or I didn't really have an aha moment where I could tell that the viewer was bored, because then I know I didn't deliver on the expectations of, someone comes into 5 Points Vids and I want them to love every video. And I know it's hard because I cover a variety of subjects. And, when you miss the mark or you disappoint people, that's often hard to deal with. And I wouldn't say I'm necessarily there's any videos I want to delete. I'm always proud of what I do, and a little bit of ego tells you it's like, all right, well, maybe they just don't understand. Um, but yeah, the one thing is like list videos I know sometimes will do really well, but sometimes there's certain types of videos that are gonna do okay or do better than you expect, but at the same time kind of eat at your soul because you don't like doing them. Like you're just like, all right, well, that's not the kind of there's videos that I've made though where I've intentionally done them because I just wanted to make that video. I knew it only would be good for me or a very select group of people. But I'm never ashamed of those videos either. I'm just like, all right, I really wanted to do that subject. And I just don't really care if it doesn't do well. And those are the hardest to tell yourself to not do. It's like I know this video is gonna suck view wise, but it's going to be really fun to make. So I'm just going to do it anyway. And that's kind of why I started the second channel, Adam Jackson. And actually, there's going to be a third channel called the 2.5, where I take all those subjects and put them on that channel. Cause I think that that'll work better. Like these different, more esoteric ideas that maybe only the weirder people get. And maybe I just have a weirder audience over there.
Right, absolutely. Just again appealing to all these different demographics. You come to 5 points for just the general stuff, the Adam Jackson and the 2.5 for just like other stuff that like more devoted fans would be interested in, that like have watched your
Absolutely.
content for years and stuff like that. That would work.
Yeah, there's just I have a spreadsheet of videos that I have yet to make, and that's one thing that's frustrating is when you have all these ideas, they just they can't. There's only one me that and it's hard to hire editors, it's hard to hire script writers and find people that are reliable or even understand sports. But there's all these subjects that are ready to go on the new channel that I can't even get to. So we'll see how the workload works with that. But I am finding a little quicker ways to make more videos. That's why I built this whole studio setup behind me so that I can sort of increase production.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and even going back to what you said earlier, like the new story ideas that you've had on your channel again, like with the Kings video, like the Bong story with Laramie Tunsil, great video. Did you see God, what was that? Like the Mississippi State Mrs. Ole Miss video by SB Nation a few years ago, like that whole like 4-part docu series.
Yeah, they did a whole thing on like draft night hijinks or whatever and
Right.
how he fell. And I was like, all right, well, this is kind of the continuation of that story, to the point where like, because Will sometimes he likes to do particular videos, and he was like, this is a real sliding doors moment where some things could have happened and other things, didn't. And yeah, it's true that you have this sort of result of all this these dominoes of things that have happened since that incident that could result in Miami, being at least a good playoff team. Um, it's always interesting to see how people respond to different types of subjects and different ideas for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'll be interesting to see what Miami does this year. They drafted pretty well. They shouldn't be disappointed with 10-6. It was a great season last year. It's just the AFC is just such a deadlock. I think I think it's more competitive than the NFC personally.
Oh yeah, and they have the Bills who are on the rise to contend with. The Patriots could be back with Mac Jones, and the Jets have to be at least better than a 4-win team. I mean, I don't know. The Jets will be bad for a while. They just have a rookie quarterback, but this is gonna be a tough division, but I think Miami, you should count on them in the playoffs, barring freak injuries or Tua not developing properly. I think you'll be seeing them in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, no, it'll definitely be interesting to see because that's going to be a competitive division. The AFC North is going to be competitive. It's like there is no real runaway in any of the divisions of the AFC.
No, no, not at all. And even the Chiefs are sus. Like there's nobody real. I mean, it's going to be wide open again. The Chiefs are going to be good though, but are they Super Bowl winning good? Who knows?
No, I think they still have their window though. Of course, they'll be very competitive. They might be in the AFC Championship game. It's too early to predict any of this, but I
Yeah.
think you know we'll see. I think it'll be a very interesting NFL season with a lot of new ideas. But I had a few other like personal questions for you, like your thoughts on, of course, the NFL draft and I guess the new added game for the NFL and even the new like NBA playoff scenario, right? Like they're doing the whole play-in thing this year. I'm interested to know your thoughts on some of those issues and how they'll impact the sports that they are in going forward.
Yeah, so I'll try to go in order here. The draft is amazing now because it it's become the independent creators Super Bowl, right? Like more people turn to guys like us that are on YouTube to watch and react to the draft than I would say. Uh, and I could be wrong. I could just I think that collectively the audience is growing on YouTube or Twitch or whatever for draft reactions to the point of where it's either equivalent or a significant competitor to the actual coverage of the draft. Obviously, you have to watch it on ESPN, but so many people I know are watching the draft and watching me and Tree react to it. They want to know that their favorite creators are feeling the same way or feeling different from them. And someone like Tom Grossi or Bengal, they're getting like 1 million views during the draft. Like and it's incredible the amount of growth that we've experienced. So I just love the draft. It's obviously done well for me. It's created some magical moments between me and Tree that I would have never thought that people would want to watch me react or me melt down or just blow up on the draft day or to whatever pick. And I'm not doing it to be over dramatic or because I know that there's a camera on me. That's how I would react in all if that was the case. If me and Tree were just sitting there watching it, we would be ragging on each other to no end. So it just to happen to have an audience when it happens, it just makes it even that much more. The extra game, I don't really like it. It's like if you go to 17, why not make it 18? Like I like even numbers. I just think it's weird that you would expand the season to just one extra game. I think 18 with 2 buys is what they're after. I'd be fine with that. I hate bye weeks. Just I know the players need them, but selfishly, I don't like it when my team's not playing or that they're resting. But I think 18 games with 2 bye weeks would just be better and no more just screw the preseason. We don't need it. I hate, it's yeah, it's great that we get to watch football in August, but this last year really proved like, hey, let's just start the regular season and let's shotgun and go. And there weren't any more or less injuries than say in another, and the football injuries are going to happen. So I just, it's all about money. And, if there's more interest around the sport, then so be it. Now, this whole NBA playoff thing, I think it's a joke. I think they wanted to create that wild card buzz or create an earlier buzz with the NBA. And it's going to end up backfiring if LeBron and the Lakers, who've been hurt all year, have to end up playing their way in and could get just bounced from the playoffs altogether. A team that went healthy is probably going to should win the championship or get to the finals. Could possibly have to play in to the tournament and have their season come down to a game, and that's pretty bad for a team that should be contending for the championship. But LeBron is clearly his opportunities to win brings is closing, and he needs to win at least one more before he retires to even be mentioned in the same breath as not Michael Jordan, as Kobe. So
Interesting, interesting.
yeah.
And I just think for me, basketball has just become less interesting over the years. Like I used to watch it like religiously when I was younger, but I just feel like Now it's not a team game anymore. It just feels like it's very like individual, right? It's just like you could have one star player that you build around, and like what the other 14 people do on that team doesn't matter. No matter what, that one player will always be there to pick up the slack, score the most points. You build your team around them. Whereas with football or baseball, which I think are the two better sports, it's like it's a team game. No matter what, all nine or all 11 players are going to have to be doing their thing at all times. So that's why it's a more interesting sport to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, my interest in basketball has waned. You know, it's obviously a major sport. I'm gonna watch it. I love basketball. Me and my best friend, who I call my brother, we're Knicks fans, and we share that love hate thing for the Knicks that happens every season, which has mostly been hate, but they're decent this year. And I miss the golden era of basketball where it really was just theater and just amazing basketball and a lot of drama. Now, and even with the Warriors, when the Splash Brothers were out there, they made basketball fun again. They really did. We're like, all right, well, you take the physicality out of it, and you had these amazing 3-pointers and a player like Steph Curry, who can do amazing things with the basketball. They made basketball fun again, but then they gave rise to the super team and the orchestrating the super teams, which obviously NBA is very appealing to the younger audience, and that's the kind of instant gratification crowd that they're appealing to. They're not appealing to guys like me or even you right now. And who knows? But it's still a sport that I love, and I do tend to pay attention more to it when the playoffs come around. I
Right.
will be watching the Knicks for sure.
Absolutely. No, it's exciting to see them back and being competitive again after years of kind of mediocrity to subpar performances,
Oh yeah,
to
it's
say the
been a
least.
long time coming, and Julius Randle coming out of nowhere. Because basketball, when you really look at it, when you dive and if you're going to watch a game from start to finish, it's the athletes are amazing and what they can do with the basketball. They truly are gifted, and it's fun to watch a game, especially when it's highly dramatic, when it's really back and forth, and you're just seeing great plays. The game itself is still beautiful. It's just there's a lot that comes with it now that it's not as appealing. Just the selfishness of the players, and sort of the officiating and things that come into like you just like the things that they allow as well, the traveling and stuff like that. It's an interesting product, to say the least.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think officiating, even in all leagues, has been relatively bad. You've seen in the MLB some really bad replay calls being overturned. Not as much in the NFL. I mean, there definitely were. I mean, I'm a Browns fan, so I mean, watching that Kansas City game and that touchback call in January, you're like, you got to be kidding me. You know,
Yeah, what's so interesting is like we used to accept errors, right? We used to just be like, all right, the ref made a mistake, let's go to the next play. Now, because of replay, we can't accept an error. We're just like, oh, that's fixable. Like you guy missed it, like we have to fix it. And so that's created its own stigma. But the one thing that cracks me up about the MLB is like, okay, we can fix this, and you're not fixing it because you're just wrong. Like you're seeing something on the replay that ever, like with the Brian Baum play, where he just completely missed the play, and now it's going to expand. There's going to be more cameras. There's going to be more angles. There's going to be more ways to determine what happened. And yeah, but there's still some awful officiating there. Angel Hernandez should just not be a major league ump, but the umpires union is pretty powerful, and they don't want one of their guys taken out, which is weird. That's um unions, are their job is to take up for their guys. And when really in reality, it's he's being detrimental to the game, and he really shouldn't be. He's detrimental to the union, honestly, and he just shouldn't be there.
yeah, him and Joe West both, but Joe West is on the way out, so it doesn't really matter. But
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, but going back to what you said a few minutes ago, just about even in the whole interview, I guess, just like about YouTubers and just fellow content creators. Tell me about your relationship with the guys from Clickbait Sports, like Urinating Tree, Scooter Magruder. That's good. We talked about Tom Grossi, KTO, Flemlo, guys like those. Like, how did you all meet them? And like, how would you like describe the dynamic with all of them and like how that's been for you?
It's been great because uh when we're working we're often really isolated. This is not a desk job. You don't go in, you don't say hi to Joe in accounting, or Phil in IT, or Betty in finance. Like, there's no coffee, there's no water cooler. It's everyone's operating sort of on their own. And I met so Tree I met when we were both like at 30,000 subs, and I've always been a big fan of his, and I was just like, dude, you're really good. Like, I want to do some stuff with you. Like, we should collab, or at least, I want to do a live stream. Would you be my first guest? And then uh we had a pretty good chemistry, and I was like, why don't we just do a show together? And that's how it started. And then you'll notice something with YouTube is, like, once you cross a certain amount of subs, like, at first no one pays attention to you because you're so small. But once you're at like 100,000, like, you offer value to other people. Like, and then there's also respect, right? Like, if you have 100,000 and another guy has 100,000, you're instantly drawn to them. It's like, all right, what can we work out together, right? Like, and so one time, someone was insulting KTO on one of his videos, and or someone called him or said that it was like something derogatory towards him, and I commented to him as like, dude, don't take this as, like, just ignore this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And KTO like responded to me, and I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that he knew that I existed. And so I followed him on Twitter, he followed me back, and I was like, hey, do you want to be on the dumpster fire? And like, that's how we kind of met. And then he introduced me to Flemlo, and then in 2018, SeatGeek flew a bunch of us out to Dallas.
Right, I
And
remember
that
that.
was,
That was a great video. That was just like, it was just so
yeah.
amusing to watch all of you guys there.
And it was such a great experience because you as a creator, you don't get to talk shop with anybody. Like, you don't ever talk about, oh man, this thumbnail design, like, why does that one work and why doesn't that work? Or when you're diving into your analytics, like, what does that metric mean? Like, no one really understands that. Like, you're certainly your dad, or your girlfriend or spouse is like, shut up, I don't know what your stupid YouTuber problems are. Like, so you try to figure everything out by yourself. But then when you realize, like, seriously, all we did was talk about YouTube, because I can tell that the people that make it live and breathe and just think about YouTube all day. And it was so evident hanging out with Flemlo and KTO and Tree, because that's all we talked about. And we never got bored of it. Like, we would talk 24/7. We would talk about other things. We would talk about sports and watch games and stuff. But when we had free time to just sit there and talk about shop, like, we talked about shop a lot. And that was just fun. And then as you start to meet people like Brandon hooked me up with my management company, and we started doing things together. Tom Grossi, like, just kind of came along. Like, him and Brandon knew each other. And then Scooter, one day I was just like, I'm gonna take a shot in the dark. I'm gonna ask Scooter to come on the dumpster fire, and he agreed. And you just develop these relationships that become friendships. And now, like, we have each other's back, and we're doing shows with each other. And the one thing I love about it is, like, we're teammates. It's like baseball. Like, we're teammates, but we have our own batting averages, we have our own stats. So and for me, baseball is my favorite sport. And my dad would always say, baseball is the greatest sport because it has a team concept, but individual accountability and accolades. And I'm like, yeah, that's how kind of YouTube is. And what things with clickbait sports have developed into. And it's just fun to have other people that think like, and they're also hilarious, like Tom and Scooter and Brandon and Tree. They're all funny, dudes, and we're just genuinely laughing. And there's no pretense, and there's no off camera where we're being, jerks to each other, or awful people. Like, how we are during the show is how we are off. Get like, there's actually funnier moments that happen right before the show that get missed. And we're like, man, we should have saved that for the show. And that's what's great about being a content creator, is there's just genuinely good people, and nobody, like, the egos are all checked at the door, because we all pretty much started at zero. And we're very grateful to be here, for
Yeah,
sure.
no, absolutely. You guys all have a great dynamic. I mean, even with your draft video a couple weeks ago, it's just so funny to just see you guys just all like bounce off of each other so naturally. Like, it's just such a fun thing to even just like as you were mentioning earlier, it's just like it's a content creator's paradise for like events like the draft because it's just like your reactions are also genuine. People are going to watch it because they want to see how a fan of a team that's a creator would react because they're like kind of like the beacon of light for just like everything that a fan base is feeling.
Right, right. And you can't get that on ESPN. Like Mel Kiper is never going to approach it as a fan. Like all you're going to get is Jets fans like yelling that the sky's on fire when they draft another tight end in the first round. But you're not going to get instant sort of fan analysis of what they think about a pick or if their team is addressing. Yeah, you might get that a little bit from an expert, but fans, they know their team in and out. They specifically see things. When you watch 16 games of your squad or 17 now of the whole year and you see the problems develop, like you as a fan know as much as Mel Kiper. I'm sorry. Like I will not accept, like Mel Kiper has forgotten more football than I'll ever know, but still, like I know my team and I know that where we struggled and I know the heartbreak and the emotional roller coaster that a fan experienced. And that's something Mel Kiper cannot replicate. So it's always great for that. And oh, one more thing that I had a thought of is it's weird for us though as we're doing the show because there's no real. I mean, yeah, there's the chat that's our only gauge of instant feedback. There's no people laughing. There's no audience reaction. Like we're getting very sort of delayed reactions of we don't know when we're awkward. We don't know, like we just have to kind of guess whether something's working or something's not. And that's why it's such an interesting experience. But we do take all the feedback that we get into accountability. Like what we can work on and what we can get better. And I think clickbait is working. We've worked really hard the last couple of weeks to get our dynamic working off of each other because we obviously have 5 big personalities coming to one show. And but we're learning when to talk and when not to talk and just having fun with it, which I think is really important.
Yeah, for sure. That's very true. But you mentioned in that last question there, like your trip down to Dallas in 2018. Of course, I'm sure there was a huge sporting moment for you, but I'm just curious to know, like, what have been some of your favorite sporting moments to have witnessed either live, in person, on TV, whatever it may be?
So I saw the Indians clinch against the Orioles in 1996 or 95 in the ALCS. That was heartbreaking. I grew up in Northern Virginia and my uncle was a big Orioles fan and he got us the tickets. And I was definitely pulling hard for the Orioles and to see them blow it, but also realize I was witnessing history. That was great. I saw Michael Strahan break the sack record, the single season sack record at at Giant Stadium before it was demolished and became MetLife. My ex-girlfriend, who's now my wife, she took me there and it was freezing and I felt so bad for her because it was really cold, but I did see Brett Favre purposely roll out to the right when there was no reason for him to at all and gift Michael Strahan the sack record because Michael Strahan was getting shut out that whole game by the right tackle and he could get nothing going and basically Favre just kind of gifted him the record, but it was deserved. He was going to get it, like it was a weird season 2001. And uh, you know I got to see, there's other, I got to see Michael Jordan play as a Wizard, not as a Bull, but I did get to see Michael Jordan play. I got to see Wayne Gretzky play as a Ranger, and Mark Messier. Like just those type of moments where you're like, I'm witnessing something great. I'm witnessing a great player in his prime or close to it, or even at the end of it. I can say now that I saw that guy play and it's always great to see that happen. But the trip was great. I mean, that as a sporting event, that was also awesome as well. Plus, I didn't have to pay for it either. That's
Right.
even
No, I
better.
mean that still is really cool though, to have seen all these players. Even seeing Michael Jordan as a Wizard, not even in like a highlight reel, like at an actual game, like that's honestly more like interesting than seeing like him at like any of his other like incredible seasons as a Chicago Bull, because he was only there for like what, 2 years and like
Yeah, yeah, and I just happened to catch, the game, like just to see him play, and I was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm watching Michael Jordan play like basketball. And I knew it was like, because it was the second comeback, and I knew it was short lived, and I knew that it was special to see him out there again, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. But heading into these last couple questions here, I just wanted to know, like, let's just say nobody's watched like your channel, hasn't heard of you. Like, what do you want them to know about you, your channel, and everything that's coming up for you? Like any other goals that you have, what's going to come, etc.
Yeah, I it, to boil it down to what my channel is, it's sports facts and bad jokes. Like that's basically it. It's sports infotainment. It's information you didn't know that you needed. So it is pretty geared. It's geared towards sports fans, obviously. Anybody, the whole general, like, I'll never have a video that gets 30, 40 million views, because there's not that many people that I don't think love sports that much. Maybe 10 million someday could happen, but I'm pretty centralized on one. I'll never have a Logan Paul or whatever viral video or Mr. Beast type video. Um, but for me, like, the real thing that I've done is try to put everything into a series. If I can't, you know, either a triggering video, a stadium video, a narrative video, or a list type video. Like, I want to stick to those content buckets, or a curiosity, which is, why is this that way in sports, or scandals like with cheating, that sort of has taken off, taken its own life. So those, you can expect consistency from me, and just, I want to be able to deliver interesting videos on sports that people will just continue to watch, and hopefully find my people, that is people that love all sports, not just one or two sports, or at least are willing to give a sport a chance, if they find the subject interesting enough, or I pique their curiosity enough to be like, all right, I don't like I don't like tennis, but I want to see what type of scandals happened in tennis. Like, because there's plenty, and so that's what I'm really after. Of course, the NFL though is always great for content. I'm always going to do NFL content as well.
Right. No. That I mean, there's so much just great stuff that you've done over the years. I mean, to your point, like there are just so many sports and sports like lore that I've never heard of that I've discovered through your channel, and I'm so happy about that. Like it's just so interesting to have somebody report all of that to me, and then I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. I learned something I didn't know 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, and for me, it's also equally satisfying to find some wild story or some insane story, that a lot of people have never heard of, or wouldn't think of as, um, that's been buried in history, that I can bring back and share with the audience, and people be like, huh, I did not know that happened, or I remember something about that, but I didn't know that that's exactly how it happened.
Exactly. That's kind of the beauty of it all. That honestly gives just as much of a rush as just being able to share it with people or learning about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Well, thank you so much, 5 Points. Appreciate you coming on. All of his links are going to be down in the description. Hope you guys are all doing well, staying safe, enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one.